Spotlight is proudly sponsored by HEC Media.
Today on Spotlight, a talented musician who was considered one of the leading black artists in St. Louis in the early 20th century. Plus, help for Alzheimer's associated agitation with a new FDA-approved treatment. And then why the New York Times Book Review called this book of short stories one of the best of the year. But first, a class teaching how AI can help you get creative. It's Sunday and you're watching the multiple Emmy Award-winning Spotlight.
You can imagine something and you can type what you think the picture should be, and then this will open up the possibility for AI to create artwork for you.
I would say that's a fantastic start. Really showcase that there's a huge demand and a huge passion for learning AI technology.
The St. Louis Public Library recently hosted Getting Creative Using AI. It is an introduction to artificial intelligence. The class is a collaboration between the library and Washington University professor Ruping An.
At WashU, I organized two certificate programs, one on artificial intelligence and big data analytics, and the other on the applications of artificial intelligence in public health research.
The St. Louis Public Library and others have hosted digital makerspaces for more than a decade. During that time, the public library's offerings have grown from being held at a single location to 3.
We've grown the amount of programs that we offer as our spaces have grown. We offer a wide variety of topics in the space because we have a lot of different equipment and resources available.
We don't have this opportunity to talk to our fantastic young scientists. And that's usually our passion because we know they are living in this AI era.
These students will be using AI to create colorful works of digital art.
So my colleague will show students a very interesting website, and it will be like very powerful AI tool to use to create like they can input like whatever they want like to create, and this website can generate those paintings as they describe or they want quickly.
Tonight's workshop is primarily an introduction to AI for middle and high school students, but some young adults were also there.
Well, I'd never really thought about it. The only really AI connections I have is just like Discord bots, online courses that didn't give me a credit for it. So I basically help people on these servers, so that's basically the only interaction with AI that I have.
Mary Anna Harder and Raven Roper are both aspiring artists. They're at the workshop with a small group representing the Missouri School for the Blind.
Personally, it's helped me perfect my line work on my own art. It's helped give me a lot of prompts, ideas just to make my own or to see how my own art would look in another style. It's really fun to use.
If we can be co-creative with AI in drawing, in painting, to co-create something that is new and exciting, I would say that would be a natural way for our younger scholars to engage in this AI exercise.
According to Professor An, you don't need to be an artist, but you need to be the author to create digital art with AI. And the more detailed your prompts, the better.
We will show them like how to do it because it's just like the daily talk, the daily conversation. Like if they want to talk to the robot, like they just need to speak. They just need to write what they want to speak to someone, like in this case, the AI.
You can enter your Gmail and log in to access the image.
When it comes to sharing the world of AI with the class, it's a family affair, with Professor An's wife and son, Luin, taking part.
That they should learn more about AI because as you get to know AI, you would think it's really helpful and can help you in a lot of things. And it's not as scary as like everyone makes it sound. So like learn more about AI and know what it's all about.
The seventh grader admits he has used AI to look up sources when doing his homework. So I asked him while sitting inside the library if books were becoming obsolete.
We can still use books, but like it's a fun way to like learn and stuff. But if you're like doing homework or something, it'll be much faster just to use AI.
For more St. Louis stories, subscribe to the HEC YouTube channel. Connect STL from HEC Media. History Spotlight, brought to you by HEC Media and the Missouri Historical Society.
Hello, I'm Dr. Jody Sowell, president of the Missouri Historical Society in St. Louis, and this is History Spotlight. A talented musician, William Joseph Blue was considered a leading black artist in St. Louis in the early 20th century. Public historian Cecily Hunter explains why his musical legacy isn't the only thing he left behind.
William Joseph Blue. He was a notable bandmaster, a cornetist. He was a composer, a teacher, and so much more, and he shared his gift of music with the world. He was born in Bloomfield, Missouri, in February of 1875. He met and married Eva Mapp, and they joined together in marriage in 1898. And shortly after that, roughly about 2 years, they ventured on to come to St. Louis in 1900. Just to give you a little context about just how important he was and his prominence and relevance to the community here in St. Louis, by 1912, during an Emancipation Day celebration, he led a brass band, all black. It was estimated in the newspapers to be about 20,000 people who attended the Hanlon Park celebration. So by 1918, he enlists in the U.S. Army. He would be sent to New Jersey's Camp Dix. While at Camp Dix, he would go on to be appointed as the assistant band leader. By June of 1930, they would set sail to France. We know about William Blue's venture in France due to a small, fragile diary that he kept. It was 136 pages. It provides information about his next of kin, his journey while in France, as well as he accounts for the 1917 race massacre that transpired in East St. Louis, among a list of other things, which include poems. So within his diary, he writes, "Every concert was received with continuous applause until we gave the last number." So among the list of things that he was able to accomplish while in St. Louis, being a notable bandmaster, he actually developed the name Professor. Not only did he have his own band, the William Blue Band, he also participated in the Haskell and Blues Music of St. Louis. He would go on to pass away in 1932 at City Hospital No. 2, and he is buried at St. Peter's Cemetery.
Next week on History Spotlight, the work of attorney and activist Margaret Bush Wilson.
To learn more about the Missouri Historical Society, visit mohistory.org.
HEC Media. Recognized. Celebrated. Honored time and again for excellence in the industry. HEC Media has been bringing home the hardware for over a decade. Arts and education to author talks, magazine shows and documentaries, individual craft achievements to overall excellence. Find all of the award-winning content at hecmedia.org.
Many Alzheimer's patients develop agitation, which can be extremely distressing.
One of the most common and most disabling symptoms in Alzheimer's disease is agitation. It's very impactful, very difficult on patients, and particularly difficult for families and care partners to manage.
Dr. George Grossberg is the Henry and Amelia Nasrallah Endowed Professor of Geriatric Psychiatry, and he's the director of the Division of Geriatric Psychiatry at St. Louis University School of Medicine. Grossberg says with Alzheimer's patients, agitation is one of the leading reasons why they end up in nursing homes or facilities for memory care patients.
When the family, the loving, dedicated family, finally just throws the towel in and says, I just can't do this anymore, because their loved one is agitated, maybe even overtly aggressive, maybe even striking out, or maybe is yelling and screaming and cursing all the time, or is pacing incessantly and they can't be redirected. So that's what agitation, the spectrum of agitated behaviors, is all about.
Families may be desperate for the help, and doctors would prescribe off-label medications.
With tranquilizing medications that basically don't have any good evidence that they work, except they sedate or tranquilize the individual. Serious side effects: increased risk of falls, making cognitive impairment worse. In some individuals, they can have Parkinsonian-like side effects: stiffness, tremor, rigidity, and so on.
But things are changing. There's new hope, and Grossberg was instrumental in this. Grossberg and his colleagues helped with the development of the first and only Food and Drug Administration approved treatment for agitation associated with Alzheimer's dementia.
We haven't had anything like that before.
They designed studies for this medication that's originally meant for something different.
Brexpiprazole, which is currently for augmentation in depression. It can be added to an antidepressant to help depressed individuals. And it's also approved for treatment of psychosis and schizophrenia, usually at higher doses. At low doses, it has an anti-agitant calming effect without sedation, without the tranquilization, without the side effects that we were talking about before.
The researchers wanted to see if it would work for agitation in Alzheimer's patients.
I was actually approached by the manufacturer, Otsuka.
The Japanese pharmaceutical company approached Dr. Grossberg and colleagues about the idea of how Brexpiprazole, brand name Rexulti, could relieve agitation for Alzheimer's patients.
I was the first author on the publication of the first 2 studies, which helped them to better define the appropriate dose of this medicine. And then I'm the senior author on the study that just got published, based upon which the Food and Drug decided to give this full FDA approval.
The drug proved safe and effective. Rexulti is now FDA approved to treat agitation associated with Alzheimer's dementia. For the majority of patients, it noticeably reduced agitation.
So between 60 and 70, 75% of patients have a good response to the medication. For any drug in this space and in general to be approved, is that the clinician and the family have to notice a clinical improvement. There's sufficient improvement that the family says that their quality of life, as well as the quality of life of their loved one, is significantly better now versus before treatment started. If you follow these people that were on treatment versus those that got the placebo, that there's a much higher rate of ending up in the nursing home without treatment versus with treatment. And then, of course, all of that also translates into benefits for our healthcare economy, because it's expensive to be in nursing homes. And our goal is to keep people at home with their family as long as possible and keep them out of nursing homes.
Later on Spotlight, inside the new interactive art exhibit created for dogs and their people.
What does it mean to take action? To bear witness? What does it cost? These are questions that award-winning writer Jamel Brinkley answers in his newest collection of short stories, Witness. Following the great success of his previous book, A Lucky Man, Witness provides another large cast of characters and a deep look into their daily lives, all in the familiar setting of New York.
I would say that New York is sort of the landscape of my imagination.
From children to young adult friend groups, to near-retired women to ghosts, Witness's characters come from all walks of life. Brinkley's subjects experience a multitude of struggles rooted in real issues, such as isolation, generational trauma, police brutality, and medical racism.
I think one of my ideas about writing or being an artist comes from the singer Nina Simone, who said that an artist, the duty of the artist is to reflect the times.
With an impressive literary style comparable to James Baldwin, Brinkley paints his scenes brutally honest and true to life, immersing his readers skillfully and completely into the world of Witness. The result of his hard work is a transformative collection of tales that is difficult to put down.
In my writing practice, I tend not to want to know too much too soon. So with the stories in this collection, I was a few stories in, and I kind of noticed that they were speaking to each other. And I had a sense at that point that I might have the makings of a new story collection. I was a little worried about it actually at first because, like I said, I don't like to know too much too soon. So I was hoping that seeing that a collection was forming wouldn't limit the stories in any kind of way, or that I would start writing toward an idea, or that the stories would start to be too similar, but I don't think that ended up being the case. Short stories are close to the way that I kind of imagine my memories. Like I don't have one consistent stream of memory, like that would be something like a novel. My memories are more like little pieces of narrative that are kind of condensed and sort of form their own little stories in sort of a way. And I'm sure that my memory is making things up and it's not exactly right, but that's sort of the way, the shape that my memory takes. And I sort of like that about stories, that they do feel like these little sort of condensations of memory.
I'm sure that gives you a lot of freedom to explore like different characters. It seems like you really like kind of an ensemble cast.
That too. I think especially if you're working towards a collection, what you end up with is this kind of community, and each story collection is its own community of people. And I do like that range, that variety. The book has characters of very different ages. Their lives are very different, but they're all in the same, geographical location. And I sort of like that diversity within the unity of place.
You talk a lot about kind of this duality of witnessing and acting and the consequences of that. Is there any sort of action you would want to take have your readers take after reading Witness?
I don't think I want to prescribe a particular form of action to readers, but hopefully by reading these different stories and thinking about these different characters and their situations, what a reader might think is that, there are lots of ways to see what needs to happen and to take action. And they can be seemingly small things that can have quite large effects. Yeah, they can mean a lot to people.
To find out the most important advice he gives new writers, watch the full interview at hecmedia.org.
You just never know where that spark is going to come from.
We're putting a human touch to everything through the vehicle of art. We give them the ability to hope.
We're at the Foundry Art Center, and our current exhibition is WAG, an exhibition for dogs. All the artwork in this exhibition is specifically curated, chosen, designed for dogs. So you'll see artwork that is dog themed, as well as interactive art specifically for dogs to enjoy. So we have paintings and photography that are hung at dog height, as well as interactive sculpture that the dogs can play around with. We have multimedia installations, so we have a TV video that's at a dog's perspective. We also have a dog photo booth, so the dogs can experience what I call the car simulator with the open window and smells blowing through. Then we also have a few special things such as our dog bowl art. So we invited artists from the community to create artwork on dog bowls that are then auctioned off in a silent auction running through the exhibition. And all of that artwork that would be sold will go to St. Charles Animal Shelter. So current statistics show that 65.1 million households have at least one dog in their home. And it's just a perfect pairing. The Foundry staff are all dog owners, and people who visit the Foundry oftentimes want to bring in their dogs. So it's a perfect opportunity for dogs to come on in. And another reason why I decided to have an exhibition for dogs is that there is really good quality regional artwork in this exhibition. And it's another chance for visitors who might be a little reluctant about galleries. Sometimes art galleries can be very intimidating, and this is such a fun entry point for people to come in, have fun, but also appreciate artists and artwork that we have right here in our old backyard. For our opening, we invited people to bring their dogs, which the dogs are allowed to come to the gallery anytime through the run of this exhibition. We also invited makers and small boutiques that cater to pets. So there was a vendor fair where they can come and people could purchase things for their dogs or for their dog lovers. And then we also had art activities, not just for two-legged individuals, but also for our dogs as well. So dogs could come in and they were able to make paintings that they could take home with them that evening. We also have a lot of fun workshops, classes, and programs that tie into this exhibition, and you can learn more at foundryartcenter.org.
With every stroke of the bow, every stroke of the brush, with every stroke of genius, the arts make life in St. Louis richer, not just emotionally, but also economically. In our region, the arts create almost $600 million a year in economic activity, supporting more than 19,000 jobs, generating almost $60 million for state and local governments, with almost 12 million annual arts-related visits. That's more than all St. Louis sporting events combined. Whether in a park, on a street, or a wall, experimental or a classic, the arts deserve our support because the arts help support us. HEC Media is proud to be our region's home for arts, education, and culture because in St. Louis, the arts mean business.
I've got to be outside. If it's not hunting, it's gardening. If it's not gardening, it's mushroom hunting. I've got to be outside.
On the Gearing family farm in southeastern Missouri,
I like making use of natural resources.
homegrown is preferred.
We have poultry. We do the chickens for eggs and occasionally meat. Mark does lots of gardening. Broccoli, cauliflower, onions, corns, potatoes, tomatoes.
For 6 to 8 weeks every winter, they pair up with Mother Nature for another treat from the land that sweetens more than their meals.
It looks good, nice and golden.
Mark and Crystal Gearing started tapping their sugar maple trees.
When I was pregnant with my daughter,
I looked around, figured out we had lots of maple trees, so I bought 20 of the old-fashioned spiles that drip into the buckets and started from there.
As time passed, they upgraded equipment, added taps, tubing, and kids. 19 years later,
grab the line. We're up to 801 taps this year, if my son's counting is correct.
The nightly freeze, daytime thaw pattern in Missouri winters brings a surge of sap.
Look, sap's a-flowing.
And hard work.
I do about everything we do around here. I'll help do it. It's fun though, a lot of time out in the woods and stuff.
That seems to be a common theme on this farm.
I like going out in the woods and then doing taps and stuff and carrying the bucket for my dad when we're tapping, and just like to be outside.
And when the sap's flowing, that's exactly where they have to be.
It's almost like having dairy cows. When it's time to milk the cows, you've got to milk the cows. When it's time to collect the sap and cook the sap, you've got to cook the sap.
Also, like milk, sap spoils. Not to mention, if you don't collect it fast enough, these totes can overflow.
I know they say not to cry over spilt milk, but I will cry over spilt sap.
Hopefully it gives them some work ethic too, because there's going to be times in life where you just have to stick to it and get it done and know that it will end and be over and you'll have something to show for it.
But that's about it.
It takes about 50 gallons of sap to make 1 gallon of maple syrup.
You remove the water, you get the syrup. It's a very primitive process. I think that's part of what I like about it too, is that the simplicity of it.
If you're here for maple sugar programming, if you can gather around.
The Missouri Department of Conservation recently demonstrated that primitive process of 3-kettle maple sugaring
This one can burn very easily.
at Rockwood's Reservation in St. Louis County.
Most people don't know anything about how maple syrup is made, and it's really interesting, so they're here to learn about that.
It's been around for a very, very long time. I think a lot of people don't know a lot about their resources, so it's just one of those other aha things.
Maple sugaring was widespread in Missouri before people had easy access to cane sugar. Historic records tell of Native Americans tapping trees. Meriwether Lewis even journaled about the Corps of Discovery maple sugaring in Missouri before setting out on their expedition.
And that, to me, is incredible. They were over there later in February doing the same thing over 200 years ago.
It's good. It's not just Missouri's Department of Conservation reminding people of the maple tree's potential. MU's Extension Office recently released a report and resources to put maple syrup on the map in the lower Midwest.
In Missouri, typically, if you're a landowner and you have forested property, maple trees have typically been kind of a nuisance because you're looking to grow oaks or hickories, something that can produce a pretty reliable source of income through hardwoods or this or that. And so maple trees have typically not been part of that conversation, but we're trying to change that. We also found that folks are selling at a premium here. There's really high demand and not enough supply. So I think all of those things point in a good direction if you're interested in getting into it.
There is your factory that's turning sunlight into the pancake topping.
When Mark Gearing isn't making maple syrup,
And as the season progresses, the chemistry in the tree is changing.
he's a high school science teacher, often leading field trips through his backyard.
To see the kids take an interest in it, I found over the years as a science teacher, when you get the kids' attention is when you make it real to them.
Several of his students are now also making maple syrup.
It's neat to see that. It's really neat to see them take off. Sometimes I worry about the competition because some of these kids are pretty motivated, but
Maple syrup may not be the most lucrative homegrown product.
you don't make big money at it. That's for sure.
But the Gearing family's profiting from it.
When we started tapping years ago, about 12 years ago, that tree over there was the same size as this one is now. It's grown a little bit, hasn't it?
In much sweeter ways.
In another 12, 15 years, when you're taking this over, this one will be as big as that one. When you have the experience, the time with the kids, the time in the woods, makes it all worth it.
Next week, WashU's Vice Dean of Faculty Development and Diversity pens a book examining inequality in the workplace. Plus, Webster Art kicks off its 20th anniversary. Thanks for watching Spotlight. Join us next Sunday at 9:30 a.m. on KPLR 11.